Welcome to today's edition of Emerging Civil War News. I'm Chris Makowski, and joining me today is Wade Sokolosky. Wade, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. Wade has a brand new job. Many of us know him as a great historian who specializes on stuff in North Carolina. And now you have chosen to put on a new hat. Why don't you tell us about it, Wade?
Yeah, well, I've typically engrossed anything to do with William Tecumseh Sherman in the Carolinas. That's my writing and leading tours and such and helping the battlefields here in the Carolinas. But I got contacted by Lynn Rydell, who I replaced, and said, "Hey, I think I got a job for you." And, I have participated with Blue and Gray tours in the past. Steve Wise from the Beaufort, South Carolina area, he and I had tag teamed on a tour helping Blue and Gray, and I've done several others with them. So I kind of knew about it. And then when Lynn contacted me and said, "Hey, I'm retiring after 31 years." Wow, 31 years. That says a lot for Lynn Rydell and what he's done for the study of the Civil War here in our nation. But yeah, he asked me to come on board, and I went through the gamut with the board of directors. And lo and behold, I stand on the hilltop alone, Chris.
Now, uh, this was kind of a out of the blue shock for you. You and I had talked previously about how, you thought you were kind of in your retirement years, you're going to write some stuff, do some tours, and
Oh
now
yeah,
suddenly you're
yeah.
taking over an organization.
Well, yeah, I was doing getting back into the normal routine, writing and researching. Matter of fact, I'd already talked to Ted Savis, Eric Wittenberg. He and I were working on a study of Sherman in South Carolina before, and I was finishing up my hospital studies here in North Carolina. And then when Lynn approached me, so Blue and Gray, it's about education, and one of our key how we function is some quality programs with some quality historians, battlefield experts. Throughout the year, we're running these programs. And I love giving tours. I've been giving tours now for almost 2 decades, so it's right up my alley. And so I gave it a chance. I always look at it, Chris, as how can I give back? You know, it's like when you're doing a book signing and you've got some young sixth or seventh grader standing in front of you, just peppering you with questions. You don't want to let that young boy or girl go, because that young boy or girl is who's replacing you and who's replacing me probably 15 years from now. And so I always look at it as how can I give back and keep the momentum going for the study, the objective study of the causes and circumstances, and not just the Civil War. You'll notice that, for example, we got a great tour coming up with Neil Mangum on Sacred Ground, which covers the Indian, Fetterman's Massacre, the Rosebud, of course, Little Bighorn. And then we've got folks like Scott Patch and Eckelberg out there, and our good friend Bert Dunkerley doing some Rev War. So we're not just Civil War. We're delving into other areas as well.
Yeah. Now, depending on who you talk to, you'll either hear that, oh gosh, this is a terrible time. People aren't interested in the Civil War, or people are doing the Civil War in different sorts of ways, or it's controversial. Just lots of different um, uh, maybe anecdotes about the field, but maybe not a lot of hard data. What's your take as you take over an organization dedicated to outreach? What's your take on the state of the field right now?
I think that's a great question, Chris, because we survived COVID, and as someone who goes out and does presentations and book signings and stuff, I unfortunately there's been several roundtables that I used to go to before COVID who have rolled up the carpet and shut the door. And it's how do we maintain this? The key is as folks like as we get older, where's the next generation coming in? It goes back to that story with that young boy or girl standing at my table. They're the next generation, and touching them and having them come along with their dad or their mom on the tour. If they're interested, you know that's how we survive. That's how we keep this thing going. Is motivating that next generation. That the study of history is so important. And we see the lessons learned all the time. Just watch the news. Evidently somebody didn't take a history class on that area, right? So yeah, it's challenging. It really is. It is, but it is definitely something on my radar. It's something I've noticed the last several years, especially coming out of COVID. Some of the audiences are getting, some organizations have cracked the code. For example, Brunswick County Civil War Roundtable. They're a model example of this is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And they're definitely not rolling up the carpet. Their numbers are continuing to grow. Hats off to them. And I love going down and hanging out with that crowd in Southport. But yeah, great question. But yeah, it's something that we all need to be concerned with, folks our generation, on how we're going to keep this ball rolling.
You're drinking from a fire hose at the moment, just getting your feet under your ground, under yourself at the moment. But as you look down the road, any thoughts or plans for kind of how you want to guide the organization?
Yeah, I've got a couple young, I say young, much younger than me, okay, who are handling things like YouTube, Instagram, those social media platforms. They're very tech savvy. They understand it. They can make a 3-minute video that I took of myself, and all of a sudden I look like I'm running for president. They're very good at it, and so yeah, we've got those in the background behind us as we look to advance that messaging, hopefully hitting a younger audience, the YouTube audience. We're definitely looking at that. We're expanding. I just got off the phone last night with Scott Patchen. We're looking at a reservoir. We've been talking to Burt Dunkerley. We just the Blue and Gray just put out here recently Burt Dunkerley's
Oh yeah.
Guide to America. Yeah, yeah. So this is our centerpiece for Rev War 250 as we move forward. Bert's great work here is almost like when you look at it, it's almost like it's a kid going through National Geographic. Well, the folks who helped put this together were all ex-National Geographic photo editors. So when you look at the images, you say, "Wow, that's National Geographic magazine." So our centerpiece moving forward is obviously we're always going to be Civil War, but we're delving big into Rev 250, and we're looking at kind of almost making it a separate branch because of the focus over the next years as we move through the 250 series here in America. We're definitely going to ramp up our tours in regards to that.
Yeah. Just before we wrap up, you mentioned Len had been at this previously for what, 30 plus years, someone who has made a huge impact on the field. Would you like to offer any kind words on his behalf as he heads off into the sunset?
Yeah, I want to thank Lynn for the opportunity. Sometimes I want to question my decision here, but no, Lynn has left a fabulous organization. I mean, how can you beat 31 years? 31 years in the saddle, doing what he does, and now's a chance for Wade to come in and make Blue and Gray 2.0. And I just want to wish him best. I understand he's down in Myrtle Beach. He's actually near Ted Savage, so that should be pretty interesting. I understand
Yeah.
they're playing a few rounds of golf every now and then. So, but no, I wish Lynn the best. I mean, he's left me a great legacy to continue with, Chris.
Yeah.
He really has.
Certainly, made a huge impact. A lot of people owe him a lot of stuff. So, Wade, we wish you the best. This is an exciting time for you. I'm excited personally to see my friend go off and succeed and do something cool. But if emerging civil war can ever be of assistance, all you have to do is call on us.
That's great. I really appreciate that, Chris. Thanks a lot, my friend.
Absolutely. I'm Chris Wachowski for Emerging Civil War. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you online and on the battlefield.